Well, you've probably heard that there's no such thing as a bad question, but in retirement planning, does that really hold true? Well, I think so, but we have identified a couple of really important questions that are pretty common to ask, but if you ask them just a little bit differently, you're asking them in a better way and in a way that's going to lead to a better outcome in your retirement. We're going to talk about those coming up on today's episode. Walter Storholt here with you alongside Frank Oliver. We'll get started coming up next. Hey, welcome to another episode, everybody. I'm Walter Storholt alongside Frank Oliver of Oliver Asset Management, based in Colorado, but serving clients all across the country. If you ever have any questions for Frank, you can always reach out, contact him in the description below. We've got a few links and references for you there to view. So yeah, Frank, we're going to be talking about better questions to ask. These are questions that I think if you're approaching retirement, there's some common questions, but if we just sophisticate those questions a little bit more, we can get a lot more out of it. So we'll talk about all that.
Sounds good.
Before we dive into that, though, how's life?
Life is good. Life is good. Did a basement remodel. I think we talked about that on one of the last podcasts.
You're shopping the perfect pool table now, right?
We're on the perfect pool table hunt right now. I don't know if there is such a thing as a perfect pool table, but I've found some that are upwards of $20,000 and $30,000 for these crazy custom pool tables. So
that's pretty wild.
Yeah, we're not going to get the perfect pool table. So
but a fun one.
Yeah, but a fun one. So just getting ready for the holidays. Got a big client party coming up here. Got Thanksgiving obviously coming up Thursday. So just life as usual.
Fun time of year, no doubt about it.
Great time of year.
Yep, absolutely. Well, let's dive into these questions. So we've got 5 or 6 on the docket for today, and I'll give you, Frank, kind of the standard question. Mm-hmm. You let us know how we could ask it a little bit better. First one on the list would be, how much money do I need to have saved in order to retire? I'm sure you get that one all the time.
Yeah, I think that's probably a big Google search too. And I've heard a lot of commercials about how much money do I need to retire. I think money is designed to do something in retirement though, and that's produce income. Mm-hmm. So I think the better way to phrase that question was, how much income will these assets generate for me in retirement?
Okay.
So,
there's flipping it around a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, and there's they got the 4% rule and the 5% rule out there stating that, if you have $1 million, really what you are is you're a 40 or 50,000 there. That makes sense per year. So, the 4% rule means $1 million will produce 40,000 a year in income. So I think that's the question you should be asking in advisors. How much income will these assets produce for me? And I think the way to really, accomplish that is, again, we talk about this all the time. You got to build a financial plan. You have to know how much your Social Security benefits are, what you're going to do with your pension benefits, when you're retiring, and what your budget is. And once you have all of those details lined out, then it does make the retirement plan much simpler.
Just one little example I can think of is if you have 2 accounts that are both $1 million, if you go back to that old, what was it, an ING commercial where people walked around with the dollars on the street, they could both have $1 million signs that they're walking around with, but if one's mostly in Roth and one's mostly, taxable traditional IRA or 401k, those numbers actually aren't that equal. The revenue that they'll be able to generate for somebody in retirement, way different, that income.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that brings up a good point. And we talk about this a lot with our, our time strategy. Yeah. Taxes, income,
the
money.
T is what made me think of that.
That's right, exactly. But you do have to account for taxes. So Roth.
Yeah. All changes that number, that income number, and that's why we've got to ask it in that way. So if you've had that on your mind of like, hey, how much do I need to have to saved? Flip the question around a little bit and look more at the income side. It might change your perception, too, of how much you need to have saved. Yep. Probably for the positive in a lot of people's case.
I think so. Yep.
Yeah. All right, next question that is common would be, should I get long-term care insurance or just roll the dice? People view it as a very black and white issue, I guess. All one or all the other.
Yeah, well, I think in general, people do not like insurance. They don't like to buy insurance. I think it's a waste of money.
Sure.
People that are successful have successful friends, and they will often say, well, why don't you just self-insure? I think the problem with self-insuring or just, flat out just not even looking into insurance is people don't realize insurance is tax-free. Right. Okay. So the insurance that we use is a life insurance product that has a long-term care rider built into it. So that death benefit will also convert to long-term care, in-home health, or assisted living. And when folks say long-term care is $100,000 a year, I'll just take that out of my IRA. Well, what kind of tax bracket is that going to put you in? Right now they would currently be in a 22% tax bracket. It could be 25% tax bracket down the road.
So even if you can self-insure, it may not be the most efficient way to do it.
if you're going to be in long-term care for 3 years and it's going to cost you $25,000 a year in taxes, that's almost a $100,000 tax bill. It's $75,000.
Yeah.
You know, you can buy a
Piles
lot of
up
insurance
fast.
for $75,000. And then the long-term care that we use, again, if you don't need the long-term care, you just don't get ill and you simply pass away, then your family gets all of that money tax-free as well. So you're not spending money on premiums for a product that you may never use.
Yeah.
Somebody
that
will
takes
always
that sting away.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the better question to ask is not so much should I do A or B, and it's the two extremes, but
Right.
what are my options? Because that unlocks the multiple options that are available. You just listed off a couple, and I'm sure
Right.
there's more
there are,
that you can look at for people. So easy to see why that's just a slightly better question. Hey, what are my options? Keep it more open-ended when you're approaching these kinds of questions. All right, another one for you, Frank. What can I do to pay less in taxes this year? Back to one of your favorite subjects. Great goal. I mean, somebody coming in asking that probably makes you feel good, right? Like they're thinking in the right
Absolutely.
way.
Yeah, that's a great question to ask.
How can we improve on that question?
Yeah, I think I would ask, how can we save on taxes in future years and possibly save on taxes for the rest of my life, right?
Often people just have that very small view of this year.
That's
that
right.
immediate urgency.
Well, I think it's because they're used to going to see their accountant, and their accountant is more of a tax preparer
Sure.
instead of a tax planner a lot of times. So they're just trying to save money on taxes this year.
Yeah.
But you really need to look into the future, determine what your income is going to be, and determine what type of account that money's coming out of. If it's coming out of a Roth IRA, you're golden. If it's coming out of an individual brokerage account, we call them a non-qualified account, the tax treatment's going to be a little bit different. If it's all coming from pre-tax money, 401k, 403b, traditional IRA, that's going to be your highest expense when it comes to taxes.
Okay.
So I would start looking down the road to determine what are my required minimum distributions going to be? What is my income need going to be? And look at making some Roth conversion decisions now, sooner than later. Get that Roth conversion bucket to grow for you for the next 10 years. Also max out your 401k traditional IRA contributions. If you're looking for immediate tax gratification, contribute to your retirement plan.
Not that you can't do proper planning at the end of the year or on April 14th, but I kind of view it as like it's a good sign that you're in the right ballpark if you're talking about taxes with your advisor in, I don't know, June or July or something like that.
Right,
like some off month then when the urgency hits at the end of the year and right before tax filing shows that you're thinking more probably about long-term conversations in the bigger picture.
Yeah, if you're waiting to make this decision on April 14th, you should probably just file an extension so you don't make any mistakes.
It's a little hard to pull all the levers that you need to on that short of notice.
Yes.
So we are taping today's episode and releasing it before the end of the year, though. So if people do have tax questions before the end of the year, I'm sure you can walk and chew gum at the same time, right? We can talk about saving money this year. At the same time, we're talking about those future years, right?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
So if that pain point's driving you to try and do something, still listen to it. Don't ignore it. And wait till next year. You can still make something happen this year.
Yeah, and if you're looking to do a Roth conversion, you definitely want to get on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
window's
few things
closing.
you can do after the calendar year happens, but a lot of stuff is
Roth
a true
conversion's got to be done this year.
December
If you-
31st
that's right,
kind
so,
of thing.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. All right, we're halfway through our list. The next one, Frank, is should I take Social Security at 62 or 70? Again, you might notice a trend in these questions, but it's because it's there. People go to one end extreme or the other and kind of turn it into an either or question. Great to ask the question, but it could be better.
So I think I would ask, what's the best Social Security strategy for my overall retirement? Right.
Okay.
And I think the second biggest Google search out there is not how much money do I need to retire, but when should I elect
When
Social
do I
Security?
start? Yeah.
And, there's a lot of break-even calculators out there that people look at. And what it's clearly going to say is if you wait until 66 or 70, full retirement age or 70, and don't elect it at 62, your break-even point could be somewhere between 7 and 10 years before your aggregate income meets what you would have received if you would have started taking Social Security at 62.
Then people do the math and think about when they think they'll die and if that math is going to work out okay.
Yep. And I don't think the Google search knows your income, your asset level, your expenses, probably doesn't take into consideration survival benefits. So what if one spouse has a benefit that is significantly higher, than the other spouses?
Yeah.
So if the larger earner passes away sooner, then that benefit's going to be smaller if they elected at 62. So you have to look at the survivor benefit. You got to look at taking care of your spouse.
Yeah.
Also, people that if they're looking to do tax planning, as soon as you turn on that Social Security benefit, you've just raised your AGI. Not only a portion of your Social Security is taxed, but nonetheless, that portion that's taxed is pushing your AGI up. So if you're looking to do Roth conversions, now it's going to cost you more to do a Roth conversion, or you'll have to convert a smaller amount.
Yeah.
Either one of those is
So
not
once
ideal.
you turn it on, you're going to lose some flexibility. So
That's right.
you better have a plan in place before you do that,
That's
or
right.
else you're kind of hamstringing yourself maybe for future choices.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
you got to look at spousal benefits, survivor benefits, and the taxable equation if you're doing Roth conversions as well.
I may be wrong, Frank, and please correct me if I'm off track here, but
You're wrong.
it happens all the time. It seems to me that Social Security, the default is I want to maximize it. I know there's a lot of marketing out there about maximize your Social Security because that's easy way to reach out to people and to say, yeah, of course, don't you want the most possible from this benefit? But am I wrong in thinking that while that's great, there are cases, view it more as a tool, and it might serve a different purpose in your plan to where maximizing it isn't necessarily the reason it exists or the reason that you're making the choices. I don't know if that makes sense in the way I'm positioning that.
Yeah, I think so. And again, if people
You
wanna,
might choose to have it cover another gap, like a
Right.
service purpose within your plan rather than just trying to maximize it totally.
Yeah, and I think you really need to look at the overall plan. So we have in our tech stack, we have several different pieces of technology. And the first place we start is with our Social Security optimization software, and that will optimize Social Security. I've kind of gotten away from doing that because,
Interesting.
well, it is interesting because people don't want to wait till 70.
Okay.
I mean, I could hold a gun to their head and they're going to say, Frank, my gun's bigger. I'm going to look Social Security when I want. I want to travel now. I want to live a little bit larger right out of retirement. So what we do is we will maximize the Social Security, but then we'll blend those numbers with our other piece of technology. That's our retirement planning software. And what it's going to do is show your spendable assets at any given age and show you how you've either drew those down because you elected Social Security and it was a smaller benefit, or that the spendable asset column has actually grown because you optimized Social Security. So when we marry those two pieces of technology together, then we can have a conversation with the client saying, okay, we've got the math. Now let's put the emotional part into it and see what makes sense for you guys.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep.
You could start a plan with Social Security, or you could use it later down the line, right? You could try to plug it in somewhere else.
Absolutely.
Interesting. I know this is definitely getting under the hood of the planning process, but it's kind of interesting to hear how it works out.
It's one of the biggest topics in our office is Social Security planning.
Yeah, trying to get it right for person to person.
Yep, that's right.
Key takeaway is not a blanket answer of when to take it. You got to fit it into your plan.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's ever a 100% right or wrong answer with that.
Sure.
So,
All right, we've got two left. The next one is, should I pay off my mortgage before I retire? Great question. I'm sure you get it from every client that comes through the door if they still have that mortgage.
Yep, I do.
You've got a more clever way to ask that, though.
Yeah, I think the best way to ask that is don't just look at the mortgage, because people have car payments, they'll have some RV payments. What's the best way to manage my debt in retirement?
So look at the whole picture of
Look
debt.
at the whole picture.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of paying off a 3% mortgage. I'm not a big fan of paying cash for a car or paying off a car right before retirement. And people look at that as maybe a little bit backwards as far as my planning technique. But again, a 3% mortgage. I mean, look at what the markets have done for the last 3 years.
Sure.
Right? So it's tough to take an asset that's growing at double digits over the last 3 years and pay off a 3% loan.
Yeah.
Also, when you
Not that rate of return will continue.
no, yeah, that's right.
Got to make compliance
That's
happy,
right for
right?
the compliance people out there. No, and I don't think that rate of return should continue. But also, you've had some significant gains in that portfolio over the last 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to pay off $100,000, $200,000 balance in your mortgage, you're going to have to pay capital gains tax to pay off that mortgage. So now you've taken money out of the market, you've put it into an illiquid position, and you're paying capital gains tax on an investment that's working very well for you to save 3%.
You're losing a lot of leverage.
We
when
have
you do it that
calculators
way.
that's a lot of leverage.
Okay.
I look at it as a balance sheet. You're taking an asset from this side of the balance sheet, putting it on this side of the balance sheet. You haven't really accomplished creating more worth.
Right.
You just created some illiquidity, gave up some flexibility, gave up options down the road.
Yeah.
Right. So
And the way it wasn't necessarily hurting you. Like somebody who might have racked up credit card debt with high interest rates that the market never can keep up with, totally different story.
correct.
But people
Correct.
apply that thinking sometimes to the mortgage conversation.
Credit card debts is definitely irresponsible, where I don't know if a mortgage debt is really that irresponsible.
Sure.
You know.
Hard to couch it that way. Yeah.
I have a lot of individuals that want to pay off their car, go buy a car cash.
Yeah.
We have this conversation a lot, right?
Yeah.
I think you and me have talked about it.
Sure.
So you want to go buy a $50,000 car cash, and that $50,000 car 5 years down the road is going to be worth $20,000.
Yeah.
So you've just turned 50 into 20.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, that's right. Or if you kept that money invested, maybe that 50 would be worth 60, 70. Who knows how much the money is going to be worth down the road.
Right.
So
Yep. Interesting. Always fun to look at those numbers, and I know that you enjoyed doing that with clients.
We have some calculators. If anybody wants to,
Yeah.
do a Zoom meeting or come into the office, we can show you exactly how that works.
Yeah, perfect. If that's something that sparks your interest, please just click in the description below, and you can certainly schedule that time to meet with Frank. Last question here, Frank, that we'll cover on today's episode. This gives us 6 of these better questions to ask about retirement planning. How can I avoid risk? Great question. You got to love it when people are asking that when they come in to meet with you. But if you really pick it apart,
right,
it's a bit like you can't do that.
Investing takes on risk.
Yeah.
Right.
Even doing nothing has risk.
Well,
right?
yeah, you got a risk of inflation if you put it in the bank, but it's FDI insured, but you're not hedging against inflation.
Yeah. Or under your mattress,
Under
your house could catch
mattress.
on fire.
Right, exactly.
There's, I think of that Final Destination movie. Do you remember?
No.
Did you ever watch any of those
No.
where the kids? They've done like 8 of them now, but the first one, the kids cheat death, and then death comes back to get all of them. It's a
Sounds
horror
like my
film.
life.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Go see the Snake Story if you're wondering,
Right.
folks. Yeah, here on YouTube. But anyway, long story short, they cheat death. Death comes back to get them, and eventually, like one of the guys is like, "Well, all I have to do is sit in a room with nothing." So
Right.
he takes everything out of the room. It's just him in the room. And what they do that's cool in the movie is they still show you like 1,000 ways he can die just sitting there doing nothing.
I got to watch this now.
Yeah, you got to see it. It makes me think of this question of people want to just have no risk whatsoever. And it's just, and that movie illustrated it. It's impossible.
Right. I mean, life is risk, right?
Yeah.
So you got inflation risk, you have stock market risk, you have tax risk. So there's a lot of risks out there. But if you take on a calculated risk and you go back historically and look and see what the stock market has done, for the growth of your funds, the risk, I think, is when people want to use the stock market for short term and they want to use bank accounts for long term.
Okay.
And we see that a lot, where they're okay with the risk because they've been taking it on for so long when they've been contributing into their retirement plans. And when you take on that risk, that's actually a good thing. The dollar cost averaging is very powerful when that market bounces around and you go through a little bit of a trough and you're, dollar cost averaging into the market.
Yeah.
That'll have significant positive results in your accounts down the road. So long term, the stock market is fine. It's when people don't get out of that habit when they retire, and then you got that short term risk. And we could see what happened during COVID, 2020. The tariff talks created some downside risk, right?
Yeah.
And then for those that are frightened of the market and they leave everything in a savings account or a CD, that's, the rates are going to start to come back down.
Sure.
But now you're not hedging against inflation yet either.
Yeah.
So
makes sense. So instead of how do I avoid risk, it's how can I manage it? What's the right risk for me? Those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we look at retirement plans as a bucket strategy. So have a cash bucket. You don't need a lot of money in the cash bucket, maybe 6 months living expenses, vacations. I got to paint the house, stuff like that. Then have an income bucket that's got some safety built into it. There's a lot of investments out there that are principal protected today or offer a great level of protection from the downside of the market. So that could be your income strategy. So separate that out. But you don't want all of your money in a conservative income strategy because then your long-term results are going to be compromised. So have 3 buckets. Have an income bucket, have the cash bucket, have the income bucket. And the income bucket should be for 3 to 5 years because the markets can be choppy for 3 to 5 years. Okay. I don't think I've ever seen the markets down for 5 years, but if you look at a downward trend like 2022, it might have taken 18 down and 18 back up. So then you could be off for 3 years at that point.
Sure.
But you want to have a long-term growth bucket as well, because otherwise your ending result is just not going to be as favorable.
Yeah.
But you can't have the growth bucket unless you got the income bucket and the cash bucket.
Yeah.
Then it's
you can't pick one
too much
bucket.
risk.
Right.
Yes.
Well, it just takes us right to putting all your eggs in one basket.
That's
or
exactly
one
right.
bucket.
Or one bucket, right.
So
Yep.
same kind of concept.
Yep.
Have a couple of those buckets, 3 in your case, right? As you plan for folks, and you can put together a great, solid financial and retirement plan. It's all part of the time blueprint. When you put together that retirement plan, it's going to include the bucket strategy. It's going to include looking at taxes, income, money, estate, all the things that you guys include in that conversation.
That's right. And that's how you know how much money you want in the income bucket is to, again, come and build a plan with us and let us look at your budget and your expense plan and build an investment portfolio around your custom situation.
Yeah. So if you've never put together a plan like that before, don't hesitate to reach out to Frank and the team at Oliver Asset Management. Based in Longmont, Colorado, they can meet with you if you happen to be local or from wherever you are online via Zoom. You can schedule your time to visit at the link in the description. All you have to do is click that, schedule that time, and you can come in and have that conversation. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcasting app, it's great to have you with us today. Frank, thanks for walking us through these questions. I feel armed to ask better retirement questions
There you
today.
go. Thank you, Walter.
We appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time right back here on the Time Blueprint.
Thank you.
Investment advisory services offered through Creative One Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Oliver Asset Management and Creative One Wealth are unaffiliated entities. Licensed insurance professional. This information is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as advice or a recommendation for your specific circumstances. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. Insurance product guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing company. We are not affiliated with any government agency and do not provide tax or legal advice.